said all along, Councillor Threlfall has said it, the Cabinet's endorsed it, the Council have endorsed it. We have said all along that we demand independent monitoring, an independent monitoring regime of strict, specific regulations for fracking. This is been our official line. What we've fallen short of, and I will still be falling short of tonight, is asking for a moratorium. Because I believe if we ask for a moratorium, then we are losing our credibility. That will go in the bin. This government is hell-bent on this Dash 4 gas. There's no question about that. There's no question that, if anything, regulations are being relaxed. It's being made easier to get licences. Laws are being changed to make it easier to access sites over people's land. This all worries me. And amongst all of this, there's only one group of people I don't trust, and believe me, that's not Quadrilla, it's the government. They have no trust from me whatsoever. In June 2012, this brochure came out, Developing Onshore Gas, and it's been put out by DEC. Again, Mr. Mayor, I've referred to this before. This is DEC's own document, and on the foot of page 8, it quotes a review done by the Royal Society and Royal Academy of Engineering. My colleague from Ray Green will have heard me discuss this many times, Frank. It says, this is the Royal Society and Royal Academy of Engineering say the health, safety and environmental risks associated with hydraulic fracturing as a means to extract shale gas can be managed effectively in the UK as long as operational best practices are implemented and enforced through regulation. That was 2012. That was advice to DEC. It was advice from a very august body of engineers. What's happened to it? It's not been taken on board, and it doesn't look like it is going to be. So I can't go with the amendment, I'm sorry, it's not enough. I do genuinely believe that a request for a moratorium will get filed in the waste bin. I think it's pointless. I think by far the best way forward, and I would actually, if I'm allowed to speak, I would actually move an amendment, and this is an amendment, to Councillor Rhodes' motion that takes away the desire to have a moratorium, asks for the same thing she's asking for as a matter of urgency, and certainly before there's any potential for commercial production of shale gas. So in other words, all the concerns about regulations, what she wants putting in place, I agree with totally, but I think the threat of a moratorium gets us nowhere. I would just say that we demand that all those things, regulations, independent monitoring, be put in place. That's the line we've taken right from the start. That's the line I think that's the only line I believe we'll get any progress with, and I would move that as an actual amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mulholland. I think that's a very perceptive opinion. It's certainly tested me in my baptism here in the mayoral chair, but I wonder if we can discuss the present motion, whether you wish to have a discussion maybe with the original proposer here to see where you're going. But do you want to make it at this point in time a formal amendment, another formal amendment, or not? In which case I'm going to ask you what it is and who is seconding it.
Hello, Bill.
Have you got a second? Yes.
I can just, it is the Mayor's first full council, and it is a challenging one. What Councillor Mulholland has done is given notification of a further amendment, but that further amendment will be taken. He's given us notification of it, he's got a seconder, but that will only be taken and debated after the current amendment has been completed. So you can't have two amendments running concurrently. So Councillor Mulholland's is a notice of a further amendment, subject to the amendment that's on the table being debated. So we're currently still debating the amendment on the table, and we have two further speakers.
Thank you. That's very helpful, and it polishes up my thoughts. And in the meantime, if Councillor Mulholland wishes to think further through that amendment, then he's got the time to do it while we debate the existing amendment. Councillor Dawn Prestwich, please.
I think it's very, very, very difficult, really. I think I was getting the feeling, you know, where were we? It's like going back quite a number of years, but never mind. On this notice of motion and the amendment, I do feel that tonight, if there was an amendments, I think they should have been really good, straightforward amendments and really to the fact. Now, I hope you'll just bide with me for a moment, but I do appreciate very much the reasoning behind this notice of motion, and I do have worries and concerns about the safety aspects, like many people, and in certain areas especially. I've personally been listening, like a lot of people too, and talking to many local people for quite a while, and I find that the latest findings, the opinions are changing somewhat, but more people accepting the fact that we do need more sources of different types of energy for the future. But this doesn't help but on the problem we have here in Fylde. However, I do believe that the government today, and only today, have released some new protections of certain areas of the environment, but it probably isn't and doesn't go far enough. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment, but I know from the very beginning, being on and attending the working group or the task and finish group regarding the fracking, and the actual sites and the safety have always been the main topic, and it's been the water, the pollution and everything that goes with it. It's had really serious consequences. It's a very big thing. It's something you can't let go lightly. But the notice of tonight's agenda is not one that I could accept at the moment, for it to just be, well, more or less put in limbo, as we have come a long way in a lot of work that has been done in this council. And I feel personally that it would be more use if we fought it through, and we really fought it through hard, and like I say, don't go into limbo, get behind it and say exactly what you want about it. Whether you get it or not is a different thing, but fight it. So many people turn their backs and say, well, we can't do that. There's nothing you can't do if you make your mind up. I'd like to be 6'2" and I'm 5'2", nothing minus, so it shows. If you can do big things, big people can do big things, small people can do big things too. But I think I wholeheartedly agree that to satisfy people and that live very near and are involved in these chosen sites, it is a great concern to them, and it's a living, it's their whole being, and we have to take that in consideration, else we wouldn't be good councillors for the area. But I do think that just delaying an action by a amount of time, it won't stop the roll. The roll will keep going. And I do remember the situation that the last moratorium of the building by the government did to this area, and we're still paying for it even now. So my straightforward, if I may, would be a further amendment, and I'm sorry about that, but simply say that we continue with the present task and finish working group to let us have more universal voice together on the safety and the well-being for the whole of the Borough of Fylde and its people. Thank you.
Well, if I may park that one just for the time being, we're getting a queue of amendments and amendments. Turning back to the amendment in front of us, I have Councillor Silverwood next, followed by Councillor Chedd. And after that, I think we're in a position for Councillor Oates to sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to say that I truly do not believe that this is an amendment and it's just a tactical block to Councillor Rhodes' notice of motion. I know you're not going to agree with me and I know you're going to say we've taken legal advice. However,
I think we are past that point, but I understand what you're saying.
Thank you. What I would like to say is that approximately 2 years ago, rural councillors suddenly started to hear about a company called Quadrilla, seismic testing and fracking. I say rural because at that time this is where it all began, testing for possible shale gas in our gorgeous countryside. When our residents contacted us, and believe they did by many households on a daily basis, with their concerns of the big bangs, the huge vibrations, cracks in their property and wires placed in fields and country lanes, everyone was asking what was going on and what the outcome of the testing would be. We didn't have the answers, but we had to learn quickly by attending many meetings and asking lots of questions. Quadrilla have done a very slick job with their glossy leaflets, roadshows and receiving great PR by giving monies to colleges, Lowther Theatre and private individuals for going on their land, including some councillors that we've heard tonight. Pressure groups were formed and many meetings held in an attempt to inform the community about the concerns of fracking. Some councillors have shown a deep interest concerning fracking and are far more knowledgeable than when all this began. So 2 years on, we now have residents groups asking all the right questions of those people they should be able to rely on, their MP, county councillors, portfolio holder for the environment and local councillors. All Fylde Borough councillors received a letter recently by the chair of Rosica Awareness Group. I'm appalled that she has received very little response from members. All the points that are raised in her letter to our portfolio holder for the environment, Tommy Trelfall, are the reasons why the government should have a moratorium in place for fracking. It is our duty to ensure our communities and countryside are protected. Money from Quadrilla and or the government should not blur or cover up what is going on. In Rosica Action Group's letter, they asked numerous questions under various headings. The headings include public concern, noise, traffic, light pollution, removal of flow backwater, contamination and crisis planning, safety and compensation, potential seismic activity and resulting damage, visual impact, property prices and insurance, future expansion of site, health screening, impact on local businesses, wildlife, site restoration, policing the sites, lack of regulations and resources, and 5 more headings as well. That's 25 headings in total. Just these questions alone send out a very loud message of why fracking cannot go ahead until all of these crucial questions are answered and we can be assured that this government is protecting us all from the potential hazards of fracking. A moratorium is not a lot to give by the government to protect the communities. Instead, Quadrilla seem hell-bent on racing ahead and churning out all the PR spiel, apparently with the government's support. I recently attended a meeting with Mark Menzies. He was asked by a farmer what the UK's position is in not signing up to an EU policy of a total ban on the export of food, arable or pasture, if at any time there is a disaster at any of the fracking sites in this country. He had not heard anything about this, and we left him writing to DEFRA. As yet, I have not had a response from him. This would destroy the farming communities. This would make foot and mouth and BSE look like minor blips to the farmers.
Councillor Chedd, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like members, before they consider this notice of this amendment and vote on this amendment, to just consider what they would have thought of this if this had been on our agenda papers to start with this evening instead of Councillor Rhodes' notice of motion. It would have made no sense whatsoever. It says nothing. It's not asking for anything worthwhile to be done. Councillor Mulholland says the moratorium will go straight in the bin. This will go in the bin a lot faster. Even if the government choose to ignore a call for a moratorium with all the good reasons that Councillor Rhodes has explained for doing so, it still sends a message about how people in this borough feel about this whole business. I will not be supporting the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I don't want to speak as Councillor Rhodes. I'm now going to ask to sum up.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I feel I must support Councillor Kieran Mulholland in what he's stating. At present, there is already a moratorium in place. A further moratorium, I think, would be a mistake. Now, Fylde Borough Council requests the government to put independent monitoring of shale gas extraction in place. Would that be correct, Councillor Mulholland? Yeah, in that case I am seconding your amendment.
Well, thank you, but I will have to park that until we have taken a vote on the current amendment, and we will do that after Councillor Rhodes has spoken.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, my colleagues have already said this means nothing. It's rubbish. It isn't even proper English. So I would ask you tonight to consider that before you vote. It's seeking, I think, to throw everything back to the County Council. And the County Council can only consider the land use issues in relation to these planning applications. They cannot consider all the regulatory things. They are expected to consult with the agencies who actually have to deal with the regulatory part of fracking. And it also states, I think, that this council's already achieved greater regulation. Well, if it has, please tell me what it's achieved, because those of us that have been living and breathing fracking recently, and those of us in the wards affected, it's in my county council ward, have been living and breathing fracking, know that the regulations are still not in place. They are still not effective. They are going to allow the industry to self-regulate in many, many ways. That cannot be right. That's why I would ask each and every one of you not to support this, and if you can't support my notice of motion, don't support this one. Give Councillor Mulholland a chance to put something forward, because at least an amendment put forward by him may, and I think probably will, take account of most of the things I've put forward other than the moratorium. So please don't support this amendment tonight. Let Councillor Mulholland have a go at another amendment and see if at least we can represent our communities and try to safeguard them in the regulatory nature of fracking. Right.
Councillor Rhodes, are you happy with a show of hands, or
no? We want.
Would you like a
recorded vote, please?
Then I need the necessary number of members to request that. Then we will have a recorded vote, and I will ask the Chief Executive to conduct that. I do not intend to vote first time round, in case I may well be called upon should there be a tie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you're for the amendment, then state that you're for. If you're against the amendment, then please state against. If you're abstaining, please state abstain. So if you're supporting this amendment, you will state you're for the amendment. Brenda Ackers.
Are we voting for...
Oh, for goodness sake.
You're voting for the amendment,
I'll clarify it for everybody.
which is Councillor Goodrich's amendment.
The amendment,
We'll clarify this.
the amendment that has been distributed, it's nearly one A4 side long, is the amendment that is currently being voted upon. Councillor Mulholland has given notice of a further amendment, and I believe Councillor Dawn Prestwich has also given notice of a further amendment. You are currently voting on the amendment that was proposed by Councillor Goodrich and seconded by Councillor Nash, and the one that has been circulated before you and required a short adjournment in order for you to read. Is any member unclear at this point? Thank you. Councillor Brenda Ackers. Councillor Ben Aitken.
Abstain.
Councillor Frank Andrews. Councillor Susan Ashton. Councillor Elizabeth Ackroyd. Abstain. Councillor Keith Beckett. Councillor Julie Brickles.
Against.
Councillor Karen Buckley. Councillor David Chedd.
Against.
Councillor Maxine Chew.
Against.
Councillor Peter Collins.
Against.
Councillor Simon Cox. Councillor Fabian Craig Wilson. Councillor Susan Cunningham. Councillor John Davis. Councillor Leonard Davis. Councillor David Donaldson. Councillor Charlie Duffy.
Against.
Councillor Sue Fazakerley. Councillor Gail Goodman. Councillor Nigel Goodrich. Councillor Peter Hardy.
Against.
Councillor Howard Henshaw.
Against.
Councillor Paul Hodgson.
Against.
Councillor Ken Hopwood.
Against.
Councillor Angela Jakes. Councillor Cheryl Little. Councillor Kieran Mulholland.
Against.
Councillor Barbara Nash. Councillor Ed Nash. Councillor Elizabeth Ords.
Against.
Councillor Albert Pounder. Councillor Dawn Prestwich. Thank you. Councillor Louis Rigby. Councillor Elaine Silverwood.
Against.
Councillor John Singleton. Councillor Heather Speak.
Against.
And Councillor Viv Wilder.
Councillor Karen.
And Councillor Karen Henshaw.
Against.
And Councillor Kevin Eastham.
I indicated I would abstain.
Thank you. And we'll just tally that. Okay. Right, there were 20 votes for the amendment, 17 against the amendment, and 3 abstained. So the amendment now becomes a substantive motion, which is now is open for debate.
Councillor Mulholland's amendment.
Yeah, the amendment is carried.
Yeah.
Councillor Mulholland, you gave notice, and I think we gave you plenty of time to come up with a further amendment. Have you given consideration to this, please?
Mr. Mayor, I assume that would have to be an amendment to what is now the substantive. So the only amendment that I would make to that is that I would suggest that we add in there the wording that Farnborough Council requests that the government, as a matter of urgency, make sure that operational best practices will be implemented and enforced through regulation, and that regulatory, health and community impacts are resolved to the satisfaction of Farnborough Council and Lancashire County Council. And that the regulation be specific to high volume on hydraulic fracking and be independently monitored. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, you indicated that you would second this. Could I ask you?
I have seconded this statement. The Farnborough Council requests the government to put independent monitoring of shale gas extraction in place urgently. And I request, because it's very long-winded what you've said, just have a little look at what you said, please.
I think you need both to be singing off the same hymn sheet as I request this. Are you able to get together and just give us a precise, concise statement that I think everybody could understand? I don't want to adjourn, if I can avoid it, to yet have this tried to put in print.
Did anybody take note of what I said as I was saying it? Because if it made sense, there are things in there I'd like to more or less stick with, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Oates wishes to
The things that I outlined, I would like to be added to this notice of motion as an amendment. They aren't, you know, I haven't mentioned the moratorium. I am not trying to just throw a spanner in the wheels. I'm actually trying to make progress, and I'm trying to make the Fylde a safer place. And if this happens, I'm trying to make it happen safely. There are, you know, as I said to you before, I'm not going to get applause, but there are another 78,842 people out there who aren't in this room, and I'm trying to represent all of them, Mr. Mayor.
Could I just pause you for a minute, because Councillor...
Yeah, can I just say, Mr. Mayor, that I appreciate you don't want to adjourn, but this is a very, very important issue for the people of the Fylde, and I think we've got to get this right. The substantive motion is rubbish, it makes no sense, so let's please give Councillor Mulholland time to put some wording to it that will make some sense to the government and strengthen up anything that goes forward from this council. Please adjourn this to give him chance to put this in writing and to allow a seconder to know exactly what's being put forward.
I think the indication of support is something that I think, therefore, it's correct to do what you've said. What I didn't want was people simply to be evaporating and going away, and I don't think that will happen if we allow 5 minutes. 5 minutes is sufficient for adjournment? Thank you. Could you please prepare to reconvene as soon as everyone is sitting down? What's his name?
Invite Kieran. I've got him first. I'll do a new list.
10 seconds, please. Please. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for that. And I think now I should turn to Councillor Mulholland to put this revised amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is to put as an addendum at the bottom of the substantive motion, which will be, I think, be number 4. The Farnborough Council requests government as a matter of urgency to make sure operational best practices are implemented and enforced through regulation, which is specific to high volume hydraulic fracturing and which is independently monitored and is enshrined in legislation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Everybody very clearly hear that? Do we have a written copy that maybe the Chief Executive or the Legal Officer could repeat?
Yeah, I think it's a written copy that only I can read, Chairman, because I wrote it. Farnborough Council request government as a matter of urgency to make sure operational best practices are implemented and enforced through regulation which is specific to high volume hydraulic fracturing and which is independently monitored and is enshrined in legislation.
And high pressure.
That's done.
People can't shout out.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm quite happy with
You're
that.
happy with that. Thank you very much. Councillor Aitken,
Mr. Mayor, I second the amendment.
Do you wish to speak at this stage?
I think it's been said. Thank you very much. I hope everyone supports this extra amendment.
I think I've just had one person who said so far that they wish to speak. Councillor Beckett.
Charlie. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've just got a few things.
And if they go nearer Preston, which they are liable to do later, underneath, from Broughton through to Wood Plumpton, underneath ground there, 500 foot down, is a water supply which Foul Water Board used to have, which they take water from, take out the lime, sell it to the farmers and recycle the water for human consumption. That is 500 foot down. These people are going down 1,000 foot, and if they frack down anywhere near there, what's that going to do? And also, if it does frack and it leaks into that void, what it is down there, what happens if that exploded? We're talking about another Abestead. And it frightens me. I know personally how Quadrilla work. When they first come round and they said they was doing their exploratory things, the amount of bangs and things that happened in Kirkham, well, the club where I am chairman in Kirkham, it lifted the dance floor and the lights fell down on the stage. When we went for compensation, they wouldn't pay it, but they turned around and said, well, you can go to our community fund for a grant. And if we'd have took that grant, we'd have been paid off like other people are being paid off. I've also seen on TV how many high people in power in this country have been brought in from America to support the government, and they are advising the government. So I have no faith in the government. And on top of that, I've seen all the programmes. Never mind what Crowdrilla comes out, it goes straight in my dustbin. I'm fed up of filling it up with it, because that's all it's worth. But I watch Discovery, and I've seen all the things what they do with fracking, where they fracked under the North Sea, how they do it out there, where they put ball bearings in and shoot it down to open the vents up so that the gas can come out and the oil and various other things. So I'm very averse on what does actually happen. And as I say, safety first must come in this, and everything else to do with fracking. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just start by saying that I do agree with the legal officer Ian Curtis about the number of times that Councillor Rhodes could speak. So I'm quite happy to say that I was wrong in that. I also agree with him that that according to our constitution, this is a valid amendment. But to me, that indicates that our constitution needs changed a little bit, because this is not really an amendment to me. I did have a lot more to say when the motion was what Councillor Rhodes was proposing. Really, all I have to say now relates to the fact that we've missed a chance to try and influence something here. We all know, or we should know, that self-regulation, which is really what we've got now, doesn't work. I'll just finish with 3 words. The banking industry. And I would like to give notice of a small amendment, a proper, genuine amendment, should this one go through. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak before I call on Councillor Rhodes? Councillor Hopwood, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Mulholland and I are not a million miles apart in how we think on this subject, regardless of what some people may think. However, I would say that over the last 4 years, we have not seen any visible improvement in terms of regulation. The government promise and talk about regulation, but they are not delivering. And as a consequence of that, I